Late last night, on January 15th, 2023, the Seoul Dynasty announced that they have brought back Prophet after initially parting ways with him, and this is potentially franchise-saving for more reasons than one. For the sake of competitive integrity and for keeping fans around, this is a big-time W move made by Seoul's franchise. I know it's not a news recap form, but it's good to have something to talk about, so let's break all this down. So, Prophet rejoining the Seoul Dynasty is something that initially came as a shock to me. It wasn't out of the realm of possibilities, but after Seoul announced that they are parting ways with him, it seemed like that era in Seoul was definitely over. With all the stuff going on over in the APAC region and the uncertainties that it faces, it kind of seemed like Seoul were heading towards a direction where they'd be trying to rebuild. So it didn't really make sense for Prophet or for the team to be with each other because Prophet wants to win, you know? That's the kind of player he is. And just based off of the moves they had previously made by dumping their roster, it seemed like the Dynasty were set to get a bunch of young players to try and develop, and that just doesn't seem like a successful formula to pair up with Prophet. Maybe things have changed, but at least at the time, Prophet probably didn't want to play with a bunch of babies. He's trying to do some really great things in this league. He wants to keep building his legacy. We've seen him time after time do whatever it takes to try and win in this league. So that just seemed like the most logical explanation. And to me, once this stuff happened and the breakup initially went down, that was it. Prophet was definitely going to be on his way somewhere else. But then you start hearing these things. He's still motivated to play. He doesn't want to play outside of Korea. He wants to be in Asia still. And all of that kind of made it more and more likely that a return to Seoul could end up happening. Deep down, I still thought he would go somewhere else. But man, what a massive move for Seoul and their fans. This is a franchise cornerstone, you know? Prophet isn't some ordinary player. He is somebody you can build a future around, as proven by multiple franchises in this league already. And if we're being honest, DPS is just a bit easier to build around compared to tank and support. It's a lot harder for those positions to carry individually. So if we're in a situation where Seoul maybe aren't the greatest from a talent standpoint compared to other years, at least they could still put their resources into Prophet and maybe win some games. But that's honestly a big what if. We really don't know what's going to happen with that Seoul roster now that they got Prophet back. That really could be a statement that they are willing to sign stars and veterans again, and that maybe their situation has improved financially. Or, and this is probably the more likely outcome if you're asking me, Prophet probably came back and took a pay cut. Maybe the initial reason he left Seoul was because his contract was big and they really needed to clear out the cap space. So by getting rid of him and then re-signing him on more of like a veteran's minimum deal, let's say, you can keep your star player and have more funds to get some sort of actual team around him. This would make sense from Prophet's point of view for multiple reasons. For one, taking a pay cut is a very Prophet-like thing. I don't really think he cares too much about the money at this point. He's in it to win it. He loves Overwatch, and also he loves Seoul. That is the team he wants to be on probably for the rest of his career, if I'm being honest with you. He's been very loyal to this franchise ever since joining them. He loves representing Korea, and it's just hard to see him playing anywhere else. I'll give him that. So naturally, he just wants to do whatever it takes to make it easier for management to build at least some sort of decent team around him with some potential, you know, young shining stars in the making, or maybe at least another veteran or two to pair up next to him. What people need to realize is Prophet is very much a team player. That's just always how he's been his entire career. Regardless of the crazy solo carries he's had, he's always been more team-oriented, and according to all of the rumors out there, as well as the stories told by Seoul themselves, Prophet did play a pretty massive role in getting people like Smurf and maybe even Jonek to sign. I know Smurf at the very least. So you know that he's just doing everything he can, whether it be recruiting, taking some sort of sacrifice. That's the kind of guy he is. He wants to play for Seoul, and he wants to make them a real contender. Although now that I think about it, there could be a third possible explanation as to why Prophet rejoined the Seoul Dynasty. Maybe at first they really did think it was in the best interest of both parties to part ways with each other, and Prophet really did think that he needed to move on. But then maybe over time, while thinking about his future, Toby, their head coach, came up to him and started doing some recruiting. Maybe he told him, hey, I got a plan, bro. You should come back. That seems pretty realistic, right? Toby and Prophet have a pretty good relationship with each other. Toby has shown that he's a very capable coach who knows how to build a team, so maybe he has something in store for us that really got Prophet excited. Regardless of the reason, it is fantastic for both the Dynasty and the league that Prophet is not only playing again, but is also back representing that black and gold. That's where people remember him at this point. I know he won the championship on London, but that feels like a distant memory at this point, just based off of all the years of commitment he has given to the Dynasty. His undying loyalty and love for this franchise is very admirable, and to those of you who told me they thought that Prophet could end up rejoining Seoul, I tip my hat to you because I really didn't think it would happen. I'm very happy for Prophet, I'm happy for Seoul fans, this is a big W all around. It would have been kind of exciting to see Prophet maybe move on to NA or some sort of other APAC team, but Seoul is definitely his home and it feels the most right with him there, and I think he's probably going to help this team stay somewhat relevant. Just having Prophet on your team is going to make you competitive automatically, at least to a certain extent. It's great to have him there, it really is, but the question now is going to be, can Seoul actually build something decent still after how horrible their offseason has went in general? Prophet coming back is great and all, but they still did lose a really solid, competitive roster that had championship aspirations. Replacing that is never going to be easy, regardless of the funding that you have, but in the case that they don't have a lot of funding and all of that remains true, what can they really do? Is their scouting going to step up? Are they going to manage to get at least another big name or two? How do they manage to build a team around Prophet that can still be really good over an APAC? The good news is that a lot of teams have a pretty uncertain future overall, and it kind of feels like most APAC teams are in this big toss-up together. But at the same time, that also means that the Dynasty could get lost amongst the crowd, and they could end up being just okay in middle of the pack. As of right now, it doesn't feel like they have that true leg up over some of their competition. Again, Prophet is great, but a team like the Fusion, well, I guess I should say the Infernal now, have 2 solid DPS players, and are rumored to get some other decent players. Then you have the Spark. They still have Shy and Gushwei. They're rumored to be getting leave, potentially. That's some stiff competition. So if I'm a Seoul fan, yeah, I'm optimistic that Prophet is back, but you gotta be pretty careful, as there's no way of really guaranteeing your team's still gonna be great just because you have him. But if you want any consolation, Seoul fans, the Dynasty are usually pretty darn good at hitting with their scouting. They're the ones that decided to take a chance on Creative back in the day, and look how that turned out. He helped them get to a 2020 Grand Finals, and was a pretty important player on their 2022 kickoff Clash run. And then you also have Fitz. Don't forget about him. People forget that he was a nobody before Seoul decided to take a chance on him in 2019, and they turned him into a star pretty darn fast. My point is, the Dynasty are usually really good with finding those gems. They're a really strong organization that knows how to recognize talent. They have a keen eye for it. And you have Toby on top of that, who I have a lot of confidence in to develop young players and to help them learn at a relatively fast rate. Look what he did with Vindame. I know that Vindame had a lot of talent, but he went from somebody who we thought could maybe be good to one of the best main supports in the league. Toby, management, and the staff know what they're doing, and I find them somewhat trustworthy. I'm not saying the Dynasty are going to be out of this world, and that they'll even be like a top 2 or 3 team in APAC. But with the resources they have, they definitely have a chance, and adding Prophet back onto your team definitely helps a lot. My hope is that by getting Prophet, it's an encouraging sign that means that we're in for a lot more good in the near future. Now, like usual with this offseason, all we can do is wait and see what happens next. But yeah, that's basically all I have to say about Prophet rejoining the Seoul Dynasty. It's a very interesting turn of events, I'm super pumped about it, and I'd like to hear your thoughts about it down in the comments below. I know it's a bit unusual during the offseason to not do this type of stuff in a recap, but honestly, news has been so dry lately, we need something to talk about, and Prophet rejoining Seoul is pretty massive considering his stature, so I'll take it. If you enjoyed this video and you want more news content just like this, make sure to give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new so you can stay up to date with all of the most recent news in the league. And until next time, this is ATP, signing out. Peace.